a lot of hearings going on today. There's a lot of work going on. So we're back in order, and I'll now recognize, as soon as she gets her computer going, Ms. Lesko for 5 minutes. We'll start the clock when you're ready. Okay. Gentlelady from Arizona is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for being here all these hours and testifying. I appreciate it. Ms. Korsnick, can you explain the use of on-site inspectors versus inspectors that come from off-site to nuclear plants? And do you believe the benefit from these extra inspectors is worth it?
Absolutely. So the on-site inspectors are called resident inspectors, and these are inspectors that are always at the plant, 7/24, if you will, whenever they want to be there or not be there. They have full access to the plant. And then the extra inspectors that you talk about, there's certain inspections that they will plan and schedule, and they will bring other resources to the plant to conduct those. PI&R inspection, problem identification and resolution, is an example of one where you know it's going to be a pretty extensive amount of time, and they'll send extra people to your plant. So I do think that there's value because they have additional background and additional expertise. I think that's helpful. But I'd like to add, perhaps where you're going with this question is that during COVID, they were also able to conduct a lot of these inspections with a lot fewer inspectors on site. So they used technology, they used other ways to get the information without having to send a bunch of inspectors to the site. And so what we would like is some of the improvements and some of the synergies that they were able to put in place when they were under more restrictive conditions. They still conducted their inspections very effectively, and I think that can be leveraged.
And so then, do you think that my piece of legislation that is being considered or will be voted on soon out of this committee would be beneficial? Because part of my legislation basically asked the NRC to look at what they did during COVID and see if some of those practices that were more efficient could be used permanently.
Absolutely. Spot on.
Thank you. Ms. Korsnick, I would appreciate your perspectives on other areas we should focus on to improve the effectiveness of NRC's oversight of the operating reactor fleet.
Thank you. Yeah, I do think there's opportunities for improved oversight, and I know we sent in a letter with some of our suggestions and would be happy to work with you to provide some additional examples for improving oversight of the regulator. But at the heart of it, it goes to, in general, just how can we be more efficient with the oversight of the fleet. And one of the things that we're very passionate about is what we call risk informing. In other words, whatever it is that you're working on, understand what the ultimate risk to safety is. And if there's very, very low risk, then spend less time on it. And so that it helps you decide where to put your time, energy, and effort. And we think that there's improvements that could be made there on things of very low safety consequence and significance.
I'm going to another committee hearing upstairs, oversight subcommittee, but it's dealing with energy infrastructure and cybersecurity and physical threats. But one of the things that has come up is actually EMPs, electromagnetic pulses. And do the nuclear plants ever talk about that risk? And if they're prepared, is it protected against any EMP attacks?
Yes, and actually we worked with EPRI, the Electric Power Research Institute, to do testing on EMPs and what parts would be impacted by that, like large transformers, for example. So I do know that quite a bit of work was done relative to EMP to better understand the risk of it.
And do you think that there is any way for the plants to protect themselves against EMPs, or is it just like everything going to shut down?
No, yes, there are some things, some hardware modifications that can be put in place to make some of the equipment that you're counting on to be more resilient in case of an EMP threat.
All right. And are the plants doing those things currently?
Yes, I don't know the complete status of the whole industry. It comes a little bit more from the transmission and distribution side in terms of the grid being resilient, if you will. I think the plants were evaluated to be relatively resilient, but the grid, I believe, was the weak point, and I know that they have looked at specific modifications that could be done to protect the grid. I don't know the status in terms of how far along they are, though.
Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentlelady's time has expired and yields back. The